Good day everyone, we are Group 5, Perante, Rodriguez, Tomas, and today we're going to discuss Exercise 15, Systematic Zoology 1. The objectives are: Number 1. Identify protozoan representatives. Describe the structure of the organelles and their functions. Number 2. Identify the parts and organization of sponge. Differentiate representative species of sponges from each other. Number 3. Identify the basic parts and organization of cnidarians. Differentiate the representative species of cnidarians from each other.
For the first part, we will be identifying animal-like protist representatives and their structure. Animal-like protists are commonly known as protozoa and contain a single nucleus. They are considered as the ancestors of animals as they display similar characteristics such as the ability to move and being heterotrophic. The first representative is Euglena from the phylum Euglenida, a protozoan. In the middle of the euglena is an oval nucleus that contains an endosome. Euglenas are usually found in freshwater streams and ponds.
Next, we have Foraminifera, also known as hole bearers. It comes from the phylum Granula reticulosa. These organisms have cells that are surrounded by plasma membranes. Their shells are made of calcium carbonate and have multiple chambers. These organisms eat and move using a long, thin pseudopodia called reticulopodia. Lastly, they are mostly present in oceans but could also be found in fresh and brackish water.
The third representative is the Plasmodium from the phylum Apicomplexa, commonly known as the malarial parasite. All organisms under phylum Apicomplexa are parasitic in nature. Here we can see the schizons or dark spots within the cells.
The fourth representative is the Paramecium of phylum Ciliata, or commonly known as the slipper animalcule. Naturally, they are found in aquatic environments. Their body is covered with cilia which allow them to propel themselves and direct bacteria and food. Also, this cilia contains toxocysts and trichocysts which allow them to anchor, capture prey, and defend themselves.
Lastly, we have Vorticella, which is a representative from phylum Ciliata. In this picture, we can see its bean-shaped macronucleus. It's very common in freshwater and its body is shaped like an inverted blood. Up next, we have phylum Porifera. Porifera means pore-bearing. Pores perforate their bodies, which are made up of loose aggregations of independent cells and canal networks lined with flagellated cells, which provide filter feeding. They are sessile, relying on water currents to transport food and oxygen while also removing waste. Lastly, because they lack genuine tissues and organs, they are considered the lowest types of multicellular organisms.
The first representative for phylum Porifera is Leucoselenia under class Calcarea. Leucoselenia is a sponge that buds from rocks near seashores. In this representative, we can identify the stolon, an extension that can generate a new organism, and the osculum, which are tube openings at the summit.
The second representative would be Grantia, which is underclass Calcarea and commonly known as flattened sac sponge. Its skeleton is formed by spicules made from calcium carbonate or silica. The body is arranged in a series of canals that allows to circulate water to bring oxygen and nutrients but also at the same time remove excrements. The third representative would be Euplectella, which is underclass Hexactinellida and commonly known as Venus flower basket. It has a long cylindrical body whose skeleton is made of silica. We can see that there is an opening on the top which is called the osculum wherein water enters the spongocoel which allows the extraction of nutrients.
What we have here is a Carterospongia or sea sponge. It belongs to the Demospongiae class and its oscula may be seen in this photograph. The oscula is a mouth-like aperture or the orifice through which water travels in a sponge. Non-six-rayed siliceous spicules, pungent fibers, or a mix of both form the skeleton of these sponges.
Lastly, we have phylum Cnidaria. Cnidarians are usually found in tropical waters and have calcareous skeletons. They are radially symmetrical, lack cephalization, have one opening, and lack organs. There are two body forms that occur within its life cycle, polyp and medusa.
Now, let's move on to the first representative of phylum Cnidaria. This is an organism called hydra, or also known as freshwater polyp. In this picture, we can see its slender finger-like tentacles, the hypostome, gastrovascular cavity, and its foot or basal disc that attaches itself to a substratum, and it also secretes a gas bubble for floating. It can be found in pools, freshwater, and quiet streams commonly attached on the underside of leaves of aquatic vegetation.
Next is the lobelia under the class Hydrozoa, commonly known as sea fur. They usually attach themselves to shells, rocks, and seaweeds. Here we can see the medusa buds responsible for reproduction. Meanwhile, the hydrant is responsible for capturing, ingesting, and digesting food. Lastly, the cenosaur connects individual polyps to one another to form a colonial organism.
This is an Aurelia, or more commonly known as jellyfish. It belongs to the class Cyphozoa. We can see that it has a semi-transparent umbrella and short tentacles that form a fringe around the umbrella margin. These tentacles are then armed by nematocysts. These organisms can be found in temperate and tropical seawaters.
Now, we have Acropora, which is under class Anthozoa and commonly known as staghorn coral. It has branching colonies composed of calcium carbonate, which are secreted by polyps and can be found in a calyx connected laterally.
The next is Fungia, underclass Anthozoa, commonly known as mushroom coral. They have a mushroom-shaped skeleton and are usually flat or dome-shaped. Here, we can see that a mushroom coral has a septa and a central mouth.
Now, let us move on to Tubipora, which is under class Anthozoa and commonly known as organ pipe coral. It is composed of red parallel polyps and can be found in shallow waters. They lack a coenzyme. Lastly, we have the Sarcopython, which is under class Anthozoa and commonly known as toadstool leather coral. Due to the coenzyme, it forms the leathery appearance wherein also the polyps are connected to the outer layer which can contract to remove debris and algal growths. They can also release toxic chemicals which can protect them from the encroachment of other corals.
And that ends our presentation. Thank you for listening.